Okay, hello, welcome to my channel, doing a different video for me. If you know me, if you watch me, you know that I am not a project panner, far from it, in fact, but I thought it could be fun to go through all the products that I have pan in my collection. Some of these are a little bit cheating because some products, like, it's kind of difficult. How do you determine what's pan in like a lip gloss or something? You know, the equivalent to like pan in a powder product, because not necessarily, you know, using it up all the way, but having a significant dent in the product. So I'm also going to talk about some of those products as well. Certain things, like certain base products like concealers, powder to a certain extent, primers, I typically, or I at least try only to have one at a time. So I'm constantly going through that type of product. So I don't have like a ton of like pans and or like half done primers, for example, because I typically only have like one at a time, and then I'll just go through them more quickly than if I had like a ton of different ones, you know what I'm saying? But certain powder products, I even have some eyeshadows, which is shocking, you know, to me. I'm sure to you as well, but they're just like more difficult because I just have so much eyeshadow compared to like one primer I use every day kind of thing. You get what I'm saying? I don't need to talk about that too much. I will though give a little shout out to this Maybelline Perfector 4-in-1 Glow Makeup in the shade Fair Light. I'm almost done it, if you can see. Let me do a little beauty guru hand thing, but you can see it's basically done, and I'm honestly saving this last little bit of product because I have the e.l.f. Halo Glow that I've been using, but this is such a beautiful product to use on like days where I'm not wearing makeup. And so, I don't know, I'm kind of just cherishing this last little bit. Also, I guess I could shout out the setting spray I'm using. I have a lot of pan in this, I guess. I'm over halfway done it. This is the e.l.f. Glow Dewy Mist, but again, this is just the one I use every time I do my makeup, so obviously I'm going to have a pretty big dent in that. But anyway, I feel like base products aren't necessarily as exciting anyway. Let's just continue with this theme, starting off with powders. This, I never thought I would get to this point, the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder in the shade Ethereal Light. Look at this pan. Look how huge that pan is. I never thought I would ever hit pan on this product, but now I can kind of see the light of finishing it up. I use this every time I do my makeup as like a finishing powder. I use it to dust away my bake, and I've done that like I've used this product every day for years and years and years and years, like hundreds of times, and it took me so long before I even had the hint of a pan. So it's just things like that that remind you how long it truly takes to use up a product. I love this so much. I don't love Hourglass as a brand. So, I mean, I honestly haven't had to think about replacing this product for a really long time, but I would like to have a product like this, like a glowy kind of powder that has a better shade range when I finish this up, but it served me really, really well. Similarly, the Wet n Wild Color Icon Bronzer in Reserve Your Cabana is a very similar product, like a light glowy finishing powder. I also have a little baby pan in here. Same issue as the Hourglass, there's only one shade of this. I think this is a good budget alternative, although I think this is discontinued anyway. It has less product. I wonder, oh, the Hourglass writing is all used off, rubbed off basically. I wonder if I could see. No, I don't know how much product there is in here, but I imagine there's more than in this Wet n Wild one. Regardless, I have pan in these because I use them all the time, and these are the only two products in my collection that serve that purpose. I have a pan and one bronzer. I'm kind of on a project pan, like an unofficial project pan with my bronzers that don't have great shade ranges. Again, I'm trying to just use them up, get them out of my collection, and then replace them with ones that have better shade ranges. This one is the NYX California Beamnin bronzer in the shade Free Spirit. You can see there's a pretty good pan going in there, but this is going to take me a while, and it has taken me a while. Number one, it's a little bit too dark for me, so I only need a really, really small amount anyway, and this bronzer is really large. How much product is in here? 14 grams. How much does my Fenty one have, for example? And the Fenty one has 6 grams. 6.23 grams, so that's over double what this NYX one has. So product wise, you're getting a great deal, but it only has like 3 light shades basically in this range. So that's what I'm using up, and I have a good amount of pan in that. In terms of, oh, I have pan in this e.l.f. Putty bronzer, but again, I use this every day. I don't even know if you'll be able to really see that, but I use this every day. I have one cream bronzer, so cream bronzer is something that I use up a lot, but I do have pan in this. This is technically a product that I have pan in. I guess same with like my contour product. This is the NYX Wonder Stick in Fair. The highlight side, I have a lot left. I try to use it so I don't have like just this one highlight side, but anyway, this is where the contour side is at, so definitely I would consider that a pan, but again, I use this every day, every time I do my makeup, and honestly this has lasted me a lot longer than I thought it was going to. In terms of a blush, I have 2 blushes in my collection that have a pan, which honestly, I'm a little bit surprised I don't have more, but I also have a lot of blush. And I feel like, I was gonna say you don't typically use like that much blush, but I use a lot of blush. So anyway, this is one that I've loved forever. This is a mini of the Tarte Amazonian Clay 12-Hour Blush in the shade Party. I'm pretty sure so many of us had this because it was a Sephora like birthday gift one year, and this used to be my go-to blush. I still really like it. It's like a warm pink shade, but yeah, this has hella pan, but it took me so long to get pan in this, and honestly, like, this only has 1.5 grams of product, and it has taken me a long time to get to this point. And my Amazonian Clay blush in Exposed, for example, and I have another blush that I have pan in, which I almost forgot, but anyway, this Amazonian Clay blush in Exposed, I don't have pan in it, and I find this product like I have to really dig into it with like a scratchy brush because it's pretty light and not as pigmented as I might prefer, but I don't even have pan in this product. So it's like doing this and kind of reflecting really makes you realize how much sometimes it takes to use products up or even get pan in them. I also have pan in this e.l.f. Bite Size Blush Duo in the shade White Peach. This, I think, is a combination of, number one, I reach for this peach blush all the time. When I need a peach blush, it's one of the first ones that I reach for because it just is so nice. I love the shade of peach. I really like the formula, and it, you know, you have like kind of your go-to products. This is my go-to peach blush. I have a tiny little pan. Maybe you could see it, maybe you can't, but yeah, this has served me well. It's also quite powdery. I only have pan in this matte side though. It's quite powdery, so I get a lot of a kick up when I use this, which I also think is a contributing factor to this pan. And I also have pan in this NYX Sweet Cheeks Glow Creamy Powder Blush in the shade Daydream. I've talked about this as one of my favorite glowy blushes. Again, maybe you could see this pan, but Again, it's quite powdery, so I think that's also one of the reasons that I have pan in it, but also it's just such a beautiful blush. I use it all the time, especially last summer. It's so, so nice. I want to get more shades in this range, but love this. How much product does this have? 5 grams. The Tarte one has 5.6 grams. Interesting, because I would have assumed the Tarte one had more for whatever reason. And this e.l.f. one, does it say? No, not off the top. Oh, 4.6 grams. Interesting. It's so interesting. I'm not someone, like, I'm not a project panner. I honestly don't really compare like product amounts that much. So it's also interesting to think about. And then let's go to eyeshadow now, which is quite exciting. Again, eyeshadow, I'm honestly shocked I even have 4 pans of eyeshadow, which, by the way, I have 4 pans of eyeshadow. This, for the longest time, used to be the only pan of eyeshadow that I had in my collection from the Urban Decay Born to Run palette, the shade Weekender. This is just a really, like, light beige, which, for me, it's also surprising that I have pan in this shade, but when I was using this palette a lot, I used to use this for every single look as like my transition shade, like my blending shade. So when you use a palette a lot of times and you use one shade each time, it just happens sometimes. So for a long time, this was like the only pan of eyeshadow that I had pan in my entire collection. And then recently, within the past, like, even couple months, I've hit pan in some other eyeshadows. So I also have pan, oddly enough, in the e.l.f. Electric Mood X Tiana Major 9 Feeling Lucky palette, in the shade Browning, which is this brown here. Again, might be hard to see, but again, this is a palette where every time I use this palette, I use the shade to deepen my crease. So it just kind of happened, and I had this as like an unofficial focus palette. I wanted to like try to get as much use out of it as I could for a while, like a couple months ago. So I just used that shade a lot, and it's pretty powdery again, which kind of lends to that pan, but who would have thunk that this is the palette that I would have hit pan in. But for example, like if you look at Modern Renaissance, I also use Cypress Umber each time I use this palette, and I don't have pan in it, and I've used this so much more than I've used that e.l.f. palette. So it's just so interesting. And ABH shades are a little bit powdery anyway, so it's just very surprising. Also, this feels like a little bit cheating, but it is pan. It's pretty sizable, honestly. From the Beauty Bay Wilderness palette, I have pan in the shade Fossil. And I think this is just because it's a creamier shade, and it just kind of has moved around in the pan that I have gotten pan in it. It's such a beautiful, beautiful, sparkly, light goldy shade, but I was honestly shocked. I haven't even used that shade that many times, and all of a sudden the pan just appeared, and I was like, okay, sure. And then recently, I actually just discovered this today from the Odin's Eye Hummingbird palette in collaboration with Tina, the Fancy Face. I have tiny pans. It's hard to say even in person, so you probably won't be able to see it, but in the shade Clear Blue, this really light blue, I have a pan. Again, in a similar way, I pretty much use this every single time I use this palette just as my initial blending shade, because I can blend this as like a transition blending shade for all of the mid-tone shades. So it's just from using it a lot, honestly. And generally the brushes that I go in with lighter shades like this are a little bit stiffer, maybe a little bit scratchier, so that also might play a role. But yeah, I was wondering, honestly, because I've been using this shade so much, if I was going to hit pan in it, and I did. And then a couple lip products that aren't like technically panda, like they're not finished, but I have like a huge dent in them. Number one, this Tower 28 Shine On Lip Jelly in the shade Magic, which is like basically clear with gold sparkle. Again, you can see like this is where I'm at. I use this lip gloss all the time. It's one of my go-tos. It's just really comfortable. It's not, I like it. It's not like my favorite lip gloss ever in the world, but I think it's really nice, really hydrating. Honestly, feels like a lip treatment in a lot of ways, which also is why if I'm just like doing kind of like an everyday look or whatever, I'll just throw this on without thinking about it. And I would honestly consider repurchasing this when inevitably I use this up. For lipstick, MAC Matte Lipstick in Yash. Maybe it doesn't look so like shocking, but I don't know. I've used this so much and I was surprised the other day when I realized how much of this is gone. I haven't used this in a while, but it's just such a beautiful like brownie nude for me with like a touch of rosiness to it. I need to pull this out again. It's so, so nice. And the MAC Matte Lipstick formula is beautiful. Also, I should show the Maybelline matte lipstick in Beige Babe. This is more of an impressive lipstick dent, but again, I just reach for this all the time. It has weird like wax growths, which I don't think are mold. I think it's just wax, but it's just like a really light kind of like pink shade, and so this used to be my go-to nude lipstick, which I still use it a good amount, not quite as much as I used to, but still really, really beautiful. This paired with Endless Cacao from Makeup Forever. Delicious. Oh, I forgot about this. Wow. I'm not really so prepared for this video, but hey, here we go. I also forgot another eyeshadow I have pan in is this Single Black from Pat McGrath. This is the Idols eyeshadow in Dark Matter. This is like my go-to black. If I need a black, essentially, and the palette that I'm using doesn't have a black in it, I will use this. And considering how much I use this, even the fact that I'm not all the way finished it up is even surprising. Obviously, I have a really, really sizable dent in this, but it's just because I use it so much. And I wonder, like I haven't tracked it, I really don't care that much, but considering I use it all the time, anytime I do my eyeshadow and I don't have a black in a palette, which happens pretty often, I use this, so I'm just honestly surprised I haven't even finished it all the way up yet. So we're really bouncing around all over the place, but now I want to talk about some lip liners and then we are done. Obviously, Makeup Forever, Endless Cacao. Let me just pull it out. Honestly, considering it's a bit of a harder pencil, so I haven't gone through it all the way. I don't sharpen it as quickly, but obviously I use this literally every time I do my makeup. Again, it's my favorite, one of my favorite makeup products of all time, but there are also 3 other lip pencils that have major dents. This is the L'Oreal Color Resharpenable Lip Liner in Matting Call. This is an old favorite of mine, but I used to love this. I also should pull it out. I honestly think it just gets lost in my little jar of lip liners because it's so small, but it's a really beautiful like neutral brown. Reminds me a lot of the ColourPop lip liner formula. Speaking of, I have a ColourPop lippy pencil in BFF, which again, obviously I used to love it so much, but for whatever reason now, it comes off less rosy brown, and I just feel like maybe just because I'm so into really cool toned, like basically gray lip liner, that this just always kind of feels too warm now when I want to wear it. So I haven't worn this in a while, but obviously I've loved on it a lot. And then this is the super old Rimmel Lasting Finish lip liner in the shade Natural. And this, again, used to obviously use it all the time. It's like a lighter peach. But now, I don't know why I haven't used this. Again, honestly, I've just been using either NYX Lip Liner in Natural or ColourPop Lippy Pencil in Ashton. Those are like my go-tos, but Now that I'm swatching these lip liners all look really nice, so I understand why they have pan. Especially this L'Oreal one. I gotta use that again. I don't know how many more uses I have out of it, but still. Okay, and thank you for watching this video. I actually tried to film this before, and then I think my camera died, but it still like has been in my mind of something I want to do. So hopefully this was interesting, especially in my vast makeup collection. Might be interesting to see like what products do I actually have pan on. Honestly, more than I even thought, especially with eyeshadow. It doesn't necessarily bring me like joy to pan an eyeshadow or like to hit pan on an eyeshadow because I don't want to use them up, especially like palette like this, like for example, limited edition palette. What if I run out of this clear blue shade, which I never will, I know, but in a way it kind of makes me sad. But it shows like even though I have a ton of eyeshadow, I do use my eyeshadow, I use my products, and that is how I can justify buying more. Anyway, let me know what products you have pan on or if this video is interesting at all. Thank you so much for watching, and I would love to see you in my next video. Bye.